Good morning, everybody. We're having the mayor's press conference that we have each Wednesday after a Tuesday night council meeting. Our aim here is to have any follow-up questions from the activities and the votes from last night, and then to also remind citizens of upcoming events and things that we haven't talked about. One thing that I'd like for people to be aware of is tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, I will be reconvening the Mayor's Summit, which I created right after the election last year for a time for the mayors from the Golden Triangle to get together. We've also added the Mayor of Brooksville to this meeting as well. We'll be meeting at Communiversity in the morning. I want to thank Dr. Ossel Brooks for agreeing to host us there. We'll meet at 9 in the morning and have just a continental breakfast and meet for a couple of hours to discuss issues that are pertaining to the Golden Triangle and looking at ways that we can all work together. Some of the issues that we will be talking about tomorrow is the level of crime that we're seeing in the Golden Triangle area, and talking about different ways that what we're working on to try to combat that. Also talking about how groups like the United Way that work throughout the Golden Triangle, programs that are available through the United Way, and then what we're doing in our individual cities. So I'm very thankful to the mayors who will be able to attend tomorrow. We're going to continue to have these summits going forward. I hope that they'll be a little closer together than we have been recently. We've all just had a lot going on, so this is the first time we'll meet again probably since, I guess it was August or September when we did the last one. And the first one was here at City Hall. I wanted to do one in a more neutral location too for everybody, but I also wanted, I know that so when I've talked to some of the mayors in the past, they had not been familiar with Communiversity and what goes on there, so this will give the folks at EMCC some time to talk to the local mayors about that wonderful facility that we have here in the area to work with. Last night we also voted to recognize Juneteenth as a holiday in the city. We're replacing Columbus Day to officially have Juneteenth as a day that our employees will be able to have the day off. Also recognized last night that this is the 25th anniversary of the festival here in Columbus, and there are several events that will start on Friday, June the 10th, which is the Juneteenth Freedom Ball at the Convention Center, and then there'll be activities throughout the week on different days, and then a parade on June the 18th that will start at the Farmers Market and go to the municipal complex. If you have more questions or would like to learn more about it, you can reach out to Supervisor Leroy Brooks or Cindy Lawrence. They are the ones that are heading up the event. I think there was a recent article in the newspaper that you can go back and reference as well. So we're looking forward to those activities. One, too, I will mention, too, that I think will be good is on Tuesday, June the 14th at Rosenzweig Arts Center, there'll be a presentation of African American history in Columbus. So I would encourage all to go out and participate in that event as well. I think that'll be very informative. Last night, we did take up a couple of issues in executive session. One was dealing with the activities on the bridge. A week ago tomorrow, Jeff and I went over to Greenwood to meet with the magistrate and the barge company to negotiate a settlement, potentially negotiate a settlement on the payment of the bridge. We can't go into a lot of detail right now because we're still in litigation. We hope to have an answer early this month in June, within the next week or so. But we felt very good about it. We were there most of the day, and it looks like that we're going to be very close to a point where we can make an announcement about fixing the bridge and being able to use it again and making sure that it's safe for our citizens. We also, the police chief gave us an update on the weapons that were stolen from an officer's car. It was an unmarked vehicle, and we discussed issues around that, future protocol on how to maintain those weapons so that they're not easily taken, and then how to deal with a situation like that from an employee when that happens. So that's what was discussed in executive session. We also, Jim, our CFO, gave the council a report on the general fund cash that we have and operating budget numbers. That's the first time the city has had numbers like this to review in quite some time. He also updated the council on where we are with our 2020 and 2021 audit. As everybody knows, we've been behind on both, but we're making good progress on getting both of those completed. You know, this is the first time, to my knowledge, that the city has been this far behind on the audits. This is stemming back from the 2019 audit when we had embezzlement from the city. But it's not unusual for some cities to be behind on audits, is my understanding. It's not a situation that you want to be in, but some cities do find themselves in this predicament, and it can affect, obviously, when we're working on grants and stuff, if we don't have our audits in order. But I am feeling very confident in working with Jim that we're getting to the right place for our finances. And he is working hard to make sure that we've got accurate numbers, and also putting best practices in place to make sure that the city avoids this type of situation going forward. The council did vote last night to go into a letter of understanding with Watkins, Ward, and Stafford to begin the 2022 audit as soon as we finish, 2021, as soon as we finish 2020. And then probably in the next year, before our next budget process, our audit process, we will put it out for bids for other firms to be able to bid on, to potentially do the audit for us. That's probably a good policy to do at least every 5 years. I know Starkville just recently went through that process, so that's just good practice to do that. I would like to tell the citizens that I am beginning to have more confidence in our financial situation than I've had since I've been here. We've still got some things to look at closely. Jim is staying in close touch with the folks in Jackson so that they know exactly where we are on our audits, but I am very confident that we're getting to be in the right place. We're very fortunate to have Jim's talents here working with us, and he is doing everything he can to get this done in a timely fashion. This type of work we didn't get into this mess overnight, and you don't fix it overnight. He's been with us since the 1st of April, and I think he's moved quite quickly on a lot of this. So I'm very pleased about that, and I know the council is as well. And with that, I'll take any questions that y'all have from last night.
Speaking of audit, when was the last time it was audited? The City of Columbia last time.
When is the last time it's been completed?
Yeah.
The 2019 was the last complete one, which was when the embezzlement happened. 2020 is the one that we're trying to complete now, and there was a lot of work that had to go into this with FEMA money and other things like that. This will not be a good audit because a lot of the protocols that were suggested to be put in place after the 2019 audit had not been followed through on. So, but we're in the process of making sure all those things are in place. We feel like, and Jim can speak to this too, that the 2021 audit will go much better because the city will be proactive in getting the information to the auditors, which has not always been the case. And then we'll be working hard to get ready for 2022 as well, which, I'm feeling really good about where we are at this point.
But you're audited every year, that's a
Yes,
normal.
every year is it's a normal procedure. Yeah.
Can you speak to the situation with the Woody sale a little bit? I know it got pushed back again.
Yes, it did. Basically, what they're doing is that we moved it to July the 20th as the closing date for it. Because that property is, the building is owned by the city, but the land is not. So you've got the Corps involved and other players in that. So trying to get everybody on the same page at the same time with getting a project that size closed out has taken a little longer than anticipated. But we have no fear that it's not going to come through. It's just a matter of everybody having their ducks in a row and being able to sign off on it.
I know last night you come up with the using the Pro Park hut for something for kids and teens to have something to do. What are the latest on that?
Yeah. Well, that's part of the project that our COO, Jamie Garrett, has been working on, and also in consultation with our CFO and department heads. This was a type of project that Jamie's had experience with in the past, trying to make sure that we have appropriate programs that are really kind of focused at-risk youth. And when I say at-risk, we're talking about kids at an age where they're going through a time in life where there's a lot of change going on with them, and trying to make sure we keep them busy in a productive way that will help them not get into situations that's not healthy for them or the community. I have visited with some of the kids before that were in juvenile detention in their classrooms while they were there, and one of the things that I've heard when talking to them was that one of the reasons they got in trouble was they got bored. They didn't have enough to do. And so what we're trying to do is to come up with some programs that we think will be inspiring to them, that will help them find maybe new projects that they would like to work on, new hobbies, maybe even a career path in many cases. So what the council is trying to do, working with Jamie, is to create I don't know that we used the word department last night, but really a line item of funding to try to refurbish one of the buildings, the old VFW building that's out at Probst Park, and use it in a way that is not just for the summer months, but programs that we can build on year round. I think the council made the statement, which I agree, that the more that we can invest in our youth, the better. And I'm a big proponent of that as well. One of the things, the Mission Acceleration Program that we're bringing to Columbus this year, that will be down at the Boy Scout hut across from the farmers market, is to try to reach kids in between ages K through 5 for reading. There's a lot of data out there that shows that during the summer months that kids can really fall behind in their reading when they're out for the summer. And so we've partnered with several different groups to try to bring that program to Columbus. I'm very proud that it's going to be here starting next week. And all the work that we've done to get the Boy Scout hut up to speed has been all volunteer. We haven't put any of the city's money in that at all, and we're going to continue to work on that so that it's something that we can add and help. I know that the public schools have wanted to add programs like this, but they can't do everything. I think by making it an initiative from the mayor's office and the council, it shows to the citizens how important we believe quality education is for the future. And I've said this many times, and I'll continue to say it, that I think all the issues that we face in society right now that are causing problems like poverty and crime, you can stem back in a lot of ways to education. And so I think as a city, it is incumbent on us, and kids from the county are also welcome to come to this program too, to offer as many programs such as that to help parents keep their kids engaged. And this is open to everybody. And it's also, I think, a great way to bring kids together and meet new friends, build relationships with others. It's also giving the people that will be tutoring these students or people that are in college right now, primarily working on degrees in education. We also have some seniors. There's some seniors, I know that one senior particularly from MSMS that will be teaching, who's heading to Ole Miss in the fall, but now she's getting paid to tutor these kids during the summer. So it's giving some opportunities for students, college students and graduating seniors to have an impact and make some money during the summer as well. So it's a wonderful program like that, to have something like this in our city, and we're going to continue to try to bring more programs like that.
A question was sent in, can you explain in non-legal terms what the city did last night with the premium pay or whatever the term is, you understand, the
Yes.
additional payment for the employees? Can you explain that in a simple way?
Yeah, I'll try to, and then Jim, are you comfortable trying to explain it? Yes. Well, as you know, we have been talking about from last year when we were working on the budget for the city, we had been set aside money for raises across the board for all city employees. And then right before we were able to vote on to approve the budget, we realized that there was a close to 1.5 million shortfall from the budgeting process. So we had to move away from that, unfortunately, because it's been many years since our employees have gotten raises. And if you look, some of the areas of where we are paying our employees is below average compared to other cities and municipalities in some cases. So we've been working hard to try to find a way to do incentive pay for our employees through the ARPA money. The debate has been, in the beginning was, is that the best use of ARPA money? Because if we use it in this way, we won't be able to match it and leverage it. But the council voted to use a portion of it, probably about 700,000 of it, is that right, Jim? Yes. For one-time incentive pay. Now, the complications have been on whether, because this money came down from the federal government, and because of the level of money that we received, a little over $5 million total, ours came not directly to us from the Treasury, from Washington, but through the state of Mississippi. And when this legislation was put forward, there's been adjustments to the guidelines along the way. So what we've been trying to do is to make sure that when we do this, that we do this correctly and legally, so that we're not at some point audited and told you didn't handle this pay appropriately. So finally, after going through, I think the legislation is like 400 pages. After studying that many times, after calling different departments in Jackson, trying to get straight on exactly what is legal and what is not, trying to figure out what's the most effective way to do it through accounting here. The council did vote last night, I think 5-1, to go forward with it. And it was option 5 on our list. Jim, can you explain exactly, could you mind coming up here and explain exactly how it works? Because I think he can, as an accountant, be a little more clear on it than my explanation.
Good morning. The ARPA fund, the American Recovery Act, designated funds for both the county and for the city. City of Columbus is receiving about $5.9 million in two payments. We've already received one. We should be receiving the second one very shortly, 50-50, half each year. Designated within that were a number of different purposes that you could use that money for. And one of them, which they really encouraged, was to try to reward or compensate employees of the city who were involved in the whole COVID problems of dealing with and providing city services while we were within the pandemic. And so what we looked at is what was the legal way to make sure that we were complying with. The U.S. Treasury has been very generous about how we can do that, but flowing it through the state of Mississippi, we had to make sure that every level of government, we followed the rules. At this point, for the non-exempt, non-exempt meaning if you're a city employee that's making less than $46,500 a year, they will get a check either the end of June or the first part of July to help compensate them. And then the exempt employees will get a 5 pay period pay raise to compensate them. And the difference is just because of the rules that the U.S. Treasury put down. But it's going to be about between $650,000 to $700,000 of that money. And it's to help pay back some of our employees, the city employees who were furloughed or lost pay during the when we cut their hours during the pandemic. And we just want to make sure that they all feel like they're valued employees, and we want to recognize them with some of this money. So.
Mr. Jim, I got one question.
Sure.
It's gonna be one-time payment, it's gonna be one-time payment, or how it's gonna be?
One-time payment. We'll put a check in their hands. Our target is June 30th to the first week of July, depending on when we can get it all worked out. But we will put a check in the hands of those who qualify for the check. And again, that's the city employees that earn less than $46,500 a year. At the folks that are above that level will get that payment in 5 a temporary pay increase. So for the next 5 pay periods, they'll get $600 apiece. So everybody, all of the employees are getting $3,000 each. Then that's before taxes and retirement and all the other withholding. But we want to make sure that we cover, and the city council was very specific that we want to make sure we rewarded all employees for the effort that they made during the pandemic.
That's all that I've got.
I have some questions, but not about that. No, for you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you, Jim. And let me reiterate too that there was a lot of work that went in to try to get this done properly. Our city attorney did a lot of work. In fact, we're still waiting for, he mentioned last night, an opinion from the Attorney General's office. There have been communities who have given raises in similar fashions that ended up having to pay it back. There was a question on whether at one time, whether the council members who voted on this would have to pay it back if we were found to be in error. So we were trying to make sure that we handled this correctly. This is something that you don't want to just do and then have regrets later. What I want to emphasize was there was never a single member of the council that did not want to properly compensate our employees. What we were trying to do is to make sure that we could do it legally, and also, was this the best money to use that for? Anytime you're doing one-time giving of salary or money, it's difficult if you don't know that you can sustain it. What we want to do is get to a healthy point in our budgeting where we can pay our employees properly, and especially reward those who are doing really good work for us as well. So I just wanted to re-emphasize that, and I've had this conversation with many of our employees and departments and stuff, saying that, because remember at one time we were looking at doing this and we didn't think we could give it to the department heads. Well, that didn't go over well. So when you keep talking about giving a raise like this, and then you keep saying, but wait a minute, we got to figure this out, or you got to sign this, it causes a lot of distress, which is to be expected. But I just have tried to emphasize this throughout the process, and I want to say it loudly and clearly that we do value our employees and the work that they put in for the city. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure we have the best employees being compensated fairly, because at the end of the day, this is for the citizens of Columbus. This is not our personal businesses, that we can't make decisions on how we might run our own business, but we're trying to be the best stewards possible of taxpayers' money.
Could you talk a little bit about the grant y'all got from TVA to rehab the Hank Aaron Field?
I would have to defer you to our COO on that. She's been working directly with it. What I can tell you is that it's a joint process with the Columbus Light and Water Department and and TVA. And so I think there is a matching point of that grant, about $15,000, which would go to, to work in the park, as they mentioned last night. The matching funds from that would not come from the city, but would come from Columbus Light and Water. The thing that I'm excited about is one of the things that we've talked about is the city has to be more proactive in seeking out grants. We just got word recently from Senator, Wicker's office, thank you. Sorry, Senator Wicker, I had a moment there, where the city, we have put in sent to his office seeking support for a $6 million grant for blight, a $3 million grant for working with the crime in the police department, and another $55,000 for our watershed and flooding issues. And we found out last week from an announcement from his office that all three of those have been moved forward for recommendation for funding. Now, have we gotten those yet? No. Will we have to continue to work with them to potentially get that? Yes. And we're working with, several people are trying to help us with that. We've worked with Wagner on this, as well as with our lobbyist in Jackson. Our lobbyists in Jackson are also trying to still work with us and helping to get $4 million more dollars for the amphitheater, and then the potential money that's coming in for City Hall as well. So we're working on a lot of grant projects like that, and what we want to do long term is to make sure that we have a city plan where we're working on projects to have long-term solutions to some of these issues, like the watershed and the flooding that we have in Columbus. What's been hard to articulate in a way that everybody can get behind it is a lot of these issues that we're facing, the flooding and stuff in this community and the sewage backup, are issues that we don't normally have money to address. It's hard to have that level of money that it takes to do infrastructure problems. But the longer you keep pushing that away and trying to find only short-term fixes for it, it just intensifies the problem. So therefore, when we're talking about ARPA money like this that we can leverage to match, that's why I have been so insistent on us doing that every way that we can. Also, when you do this, and you can show a strategic plan, especially when you're working with your county, you get the attention of the folks in Washington for potential more grant money. But sometimes it's hard for people to be patient on projects like that. The media has criticized the city about not having a solid plan on ARPA. Well, that's not true. We do have a plan, but we're trying to work it. We're also trying to build relationships with the county and with other elected officials to try to work together. And that takes time. Again, these problems didn't happen overnight, so we're not going to be able to fix them overnight. And we're simultaneously trying to build long-term strategic plans, not just a plan, but how do you fund those plans? It's easy to have a strategic plan or ideas, but how are you actually going to fund them, especially when a city our size? Well, you have to try to partner with your county, with your state, and with federal dollars, and that's what we're working hard to do. And I'm hoping in the coming months, we will have more information about that, about solidly where our plans are and what we're trying to do for the citizens of Columbus. We've talked about that from the beginning, that we needed to be proactive in addressing these issues and trying to find the proper funding. So going back to your original question about working with Columbus Light and Water on the Hank Aaron Field grant money, those are the kinds of things that we're going to continue. And there's several other projects that we're working on now that we're trying to get information together to try to work on grants, not necessarily just from the state and federal, obviously, but from private sources too. Again, going back to what we're doing with Mission Acceleration, that's at no cost to the city, any of this. And we're working with the University of Mississippi, so that's all grant money that's paying for the teachers that will be working with the kids. And then we've had local donors who are purchasing the other items that we need and fixing up the building. So that's the kind of projects that the city has to do. We have to work together, not only with state and federal government, but with citizens in the community too. I've said this and will continue to say it often. Cities that are thriving and doing well aren't usually because of their elected officials, but it's an engaged citizenry who is helping and working with the elected officials to do the good work.
Do you know what the scale of the work is that's needed out at Hank Aaron or anything to that nature, like what this grant would be used for specifically?
I do not. But Greg could probably answer that.
Okay.
He had a laundry list of items last night.
Do you have any idea when work's going to get underway as far as the roof repairs over at the police department?
Well, we did vote last night to set aside between $10,000 to $12,000 to do it. So as soon as they can properly get the cost, the bids for that, then they'll move forward as quickly as possible. I would hope within the next month or two.
Do they have to get bids or can they just get quotes?
Quotes.
The public purchase law speaks to sealed competitive bids and written bids. And we always say quotes as opposed to bids, just to make it simpler, but
It's bids.
it doesn't have to be sealed, it's just two written
Yeah.
bids.
Yeah, but a minimum of 2.
Yeah.
Minimum of 2, right.
That's all I got.
That's all I got.
All right, thank you.